Somewhere along the way, you noticed your phone stopped ringing as often. The dinners got smaller. The names in your address book began to fade. Some moved, some passed, some simply drifted. And maybe a quiet thought crept in, one you never said out loud. Am I failing at this? Shouldn't I have more people around me by now? I want you to set that worry down. Because after years of watching how people truly age, I've come to believe this. The ones most at peace in later life are almost never the ones with the fullest calendars. They're the ones who learn to be good company to themselves. There's a popular idea online right now. The smarter you are, the fewer friends you keep. And I'll be honest, that's not quite right. A reader said it far better. It's not that fewer friends means you're smarter. It's that the more you come to know yourself, the less you're swept around by the little games of approval, and so you walk a quieter road. Today I'll walk you through 5 things that quietly happen as a person grows wise. Stay to the end. The 5th one changes everything. For most of our lives, we are graded. Graded in school, at work, by neighbors, by in-laws, by the quiet arithmetic of who invited whom to what. So we learn to perform. The successful child, the tidy house, the right answer. There's a word for what we were chasing: esteem. The good opinion of others. Nothing wrong with it until you realize it's a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much approval you pour in, it drains because it was never yours to hold. The wise person makes a quiet switch. They trade esteem for self-respect, the conviction that comes from inside. And the moment you stop needing the room's approval, you stop needing the room. Not from bitterness, from fullness. One reader wrote, "After meeting all kinds of people, I'm most at ease walking alone, reading, going to the library, wandering the market. It's lighter that way." That's not failed friendship. That's a person who stopped grading themselves by it. So let me ask you, when was the last time you did something simply because it pleased you and didn't tell a single soul? That small, unwitnessed pleasure is self-respect quietly growing back. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer told a story that has stayed with me. On a freezing night, porcupines huddle together for warmth, but the closer they press, the more they prick one another with their quills. So they pull apart, and the cold returns. Closer, then back, until at last they find the one distance that gives warmth without too much pain. That, he said, is human relationship. When we're young, we think love means pressing as close as possible. Then life teaches us about the quills, the harsh word from a sibling, the friendship that turned to comparison, the hurt that came from those we let closest. One reader put it plainly, "There are almost no true friends. The wise thing is to keep a kind distance." But I want to be careful here. Keeping a kind distance is wisdom. Slamming the door on everyone is loneliness wearing a costume. Some say, trust anyone and you'll only get hurt. We're born alone and die alone. I understand the wound under those words, but that's pain talking, not wisdom. The porcupines didn't stop huddling. They found the right distance. The second trait isn't fewer people, it's better space. Here's a curious thing about being human. You have a mouthful of healthy teeth and never think about them once. Then one tooth aches, and suddenly it's all you can feel. That single point of pain blots out all the quiet working blessings. We do this with our whole lives. We feel the friend who drifted, never the peaceful morning, the empty chair, never the warm cup in our own 2 hands. Schopenhauer described why. Suffering swings like a pendulum between 2 walls. One side, not enough, wanting, missing, lacking. The other, too much, crowded, overstimulated, drained by people and noise. Too little company aches, too much company exhausts. Happiness isn't at either wall, it's the gentle balance between them. A kind of contented enough. A ship knows this. Without ballast in its belly, a steadying weight, it rides too high and tips in the first wind. The weight isn't the enemy of the voyage, It's what keeps the ship upright. There's a physical truth here, too. People who keep their hands and minds engaged, tending plants, walking, reading, making things, show measurably lower rates of depression in later life. One reader was honest. At my age, meeting old friends, the talk is small. There's little to say. Another said sharing joy can invite envy, and sharing sorrow can become a weakness. Those feelings are real, but that's the aching tooth talking. It forgets the one or two people with whom the conversation isn't small. The wise don't quit people. They stop spending themselves on the shallow end of the pool. Now I have to be very honest, because this is where the internet slogans get dangerous. Smart people are loners. A tidy line. But Schopenhauer, the great defender of solitude, would be first to warn you. A powerful mind left entirely alone doesn't automatically find peace. Sometimes it just thinks itself in circles. Solitude isn't magic, it's a room. What matters is what you do inside it. For some, that room becomes a prison, the same regrets pacing back and forth. For the wise, it becomes a workshop. Think of how much was made in quiet rooms. Newton did his deepest work in isolation. Einstein called solitude painful in youth, but delicious in maturity. It was never that they hated people. They'd learned to turn aloneness into making. A reader shared something I can't forget. She sat beside her mother-in-law through her final days. A woman who'd been wonderfully social, always surrounded. And at the very end, what mattered was not how many came to visit, but how fully that woman had tended her own inner life. I don't share that to frighten you, but because the work of becoming good company to yourself is work you can still do today. So, if your solitude is a room, what are you building in it? And here, at last, is the trait that changes everything. The wisest people I've known made peace with a hard, freeing truth. Relationships have seasons. A reader wrote it simply, relationships always have an expiration date. Once you accept that, the heart finally rests. Read that again, the heart finally rests. Here's what we get wrong. We treat every friendship that ended as a failure. But a friendship that warmed one season of your life and then moved on didn't fail. It did its work. It was never meant to last forever, any more than autumn was meant to stay. When you stop demanding that people be permanent, three things happen. The grief over the ones who left softens. The pressure on the ones still here lightens. You stop clutching. And the door to new, late-life friendships swings open again, because you're no longer afraid of the ending. This is the deepest difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness says, everyone left, so I'll trust no one. Solitude says, I am whole on my own, so every person who comes is a gift, not a rescue. The whole journey was never about ending up alone. It was about becoming someone who can be with others freely, because you no longer need them to fill a hole. The same great pain that isolates us can also crack us open and let us see that everyone carries their own quiet weight, that recognition has a name, it's compassion, and it's the bridge back to people. So if you've reached this point, let me say it plainly. Fewer friends was never the goal, and never proof of anything. The goal was a heart that no longer trembles when the room empties out. You spent a lifetime being graded by other people. Perhaps it's finally time to grade yourself, and to be gentle while you do. The thinker who walked beside us through all of this, Arthur Schopenhauer, wrote about solitude and happiness with a clarity few have matched. If today found a home in you, the little book I'd set on your evening table is Schopenhauer's Essays and Aphorisms. It's short, honest, and strangely comforting, the kind of book you sit with for 20 minutes on a slow evening and rise from feeling a little more at peace. In a world that won't stop spinning, it simply asks you to sit down and be still. As an Amazon associate, Wisecast earns from qualifying purchases. I'm not here to rush you toward it. I mention it only because anyone who stayed to the end of this video is exactly the kind of person who'd find a friend in those pages. And if you'd like to pull a chair up to the same table, to keep thinking these slow thoughts together, you're always welcome as a friend of Wisecast. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Of these 5 traits, which one did you recognize in yourself? And here's my real question for tonight. What's one small thing you'll build in your quiet room this week? Tell me in the comments. I read them. Whoever you are, wherever you're sitting as you watch this, may your heart grow a little more at peace.